The Korean wave is drawing more fans from all over the world. Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% since rate in April. Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences. Like the number of hybrid cars are registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million with its locally developed Yuri rocket.
Arirang.
Introducing Korean broadcast content that you won't be able to stop watching. For weary modern souls, Dr. Romantic, the quirky genius doctor of Puldam Hospital, prescribes heartwarming tales of humanity. A couple together for 7 years sees their rose-tinted glasses shatter. Can they keep their relationship alive? Discover the raw stories of youth, work, and love. Beyond what social media can show, experience the vibrant Korea through its hidden gems. Mama, the ultimate K-pop festival for global fans. Find your star in a feast of trendy music and electrifying performances. Now, the whole world enjoys it together.
Knock knock! The magical door to the world of K-animation is swinging wide open. Meet your instant new BFF, the adorable Catch. Tina Ping will have you hooked from the very first glance. Need a hand? Our Robocar Poli Rescue team is always zooming in to save the day. How about tagging along on Pinkfong and Pal's super exciting quest to reclaim their lost magic? With the mysterious life forms Kabion by your side, you can become a Kabion master and save humanity like the total hero. Protecting children's innocence while igniting their boundless imaginations. That's the magic of Korean animation. K-animation, the ultimate bestie for kids worldwide.
Lair the Peak.
The U.S. Supreme Court began hearing arguments over the legality of President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs on South Korea and other trading partners. A majority of the top court justices reportedly appear skeptical about the president's power to impose such far-reaching tariffs. South Korea and the United States are expected to announce a joint fact sheet as early as this week that will cover tariffs and security issues. The two sides are in final consultations after reaching a trade deal last week, following months of tariff negotiations. Following another round of U.S. sanctions on North Korea, Pyongyang said it will respond with strategic patience to what it called Washington's unchanged hostility. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. We begin today with the U.S. Supreme Court, which began its hearings on whether President Donald Trump's decision to impose sweeping tariffs was legal. Justices of the top court, which holds a conservative majority, seem skeptical of the president's power to unilaterally impose tariffs. But legal experts say the outcome of this case remains uncertain. Our Lee Seung-jae starts us off.
The U.S. Supreme Court began hearings on Wednesday to decide whether President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs on South Korea and other nations were legally justified. At the center of the case is whether Trump exceeded his presidential authority when he used tariffs as a central tool of his economic and foreign policy.
The power to impose tariffs is a core application of the power to regulate foreign commerce, which is what the phrase regulate importation in IEEPA naturally evokes.
Justices met at the Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. to hear arguments from attorneys representing small businesses and 12 Democratic-leaning states that filed the lawsuit, as well as from government lawyers defending Trump's policy.
It's simply implausible that in enacting IEEPA, Congress handed the president the power to overhaul the entire tariff system and the American economy in the process, allowing him to set and reset tariffs on any and every product from any and every country at any and all times.
Lower courts, including the U.S. Court of International Trade and the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, had already ruled that Trump's global tariffs imposed using emergency powers were unlawful. The Supreme Court, now holding a 6-3 conservative majority, has in the past issued rulings favorable to Trump, but legal experts say the outcome of this case remains uncertain. The central issue is whether Trump's reliance on the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which allows a president to regulate imports in response to a declared national emergency, provided a legitimate legal basis for his tariffs. On April 2nd, Trump declared an emergency, claiming that America's chronic trade deficits were a threat to national security and the economy. He then announced plans to impose so-called reciprocal tariffs on multiple foreign nations. During Wednesday's session, a majority of the justices appeared skeptical about the president's power to unilaterally impose such far-reaching tariffs. 3 conservative justices raised concerns about whether an emergency law could give Trump near limitless power to change import duties and affect global trade. The court's 3 liberal justices also voiced doubts, meaning that at least 2 conservative votes could move to limit Trump's authority, though not necessarily strike it down completely. Legal analysts say the decision in this case could redefine the scope of presidential authority in trade policy for years to come. 이승재, Arirang News.
Seoul and Washington are currently in close consultations to announce a joint fact sheet soon, possibly as early as this week, following their recent trade deal. But the devil, as always, looks to be in the details. Our top office correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
Following an unexpected trade deal as a result of last week's talks between Presidents Lee Jae-myung and Donald Trump, the South Korean and U.S. authorities are discussing the details of the joint fact sheet and MOUs that are to be announced within a few days.
The 2 countries do not have many differences, so the fact sheet is expected to be concluded this week.
The Trump administration plans to lower its tariffs on Korea in exchange for the latter's investment package, worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Sources say the details entail setting from when the tariffs will drop retroactively, with Seoul hoping to move up the date to August 7th, the point where America's tariffs began taking effect, while Washington reportedly says otherwise. South Korea has also reportedly asked the U.S. to specify its tariff cut in a Federal Register notice upon signing the MOU. The allies agreed upon a framework deal in July, but Korea is still subject to higher levies, including sectoral duties on cars. On the security front, consultations are in the works to include the allies' cooperation on nuclear power submarines in the fact sheet, as discussed at the highest level last week. Some have raised the possibility that the sheet could include Korea's commitment to purchase U.S. weaponry worth $25 billion, to which Seoul's presidential office responded that nothing has been decided and any decision will be made taking into account various conditions. The gist of the Korea-U.S. trade deal includes Seoul making investments worth $350 billion, among which $200 billion will be in cash, with an annual payment ceiling of $20 billion, while $150 billion will be invested for cooperation on shipbuilding. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Shifting gears, following another round of U.S. sanctions on North Korea this week, Pyongyang released a statement this morning saying that the regime will wait out Washington rather than engage under current conditions. Our An Sung-jin has the details.
North Korea has said it will respond with strategic patience to what it calls Washington's unchanged hostility following the recent sanctions. According to its state media Korean Central News Agency on Thursday, Kim Woosung, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of U.S. affairs, issued a statement that reiterated Pyongyang's position against what it called the deep-rooted hostility toward our state from the current U.S. administration. Kim added that the latest round of sanctions is the fifth unilateral sanctions package since the Trump administration took office and denounced the U.S. for asserting pressure and coercion, which will have no impact on the North's position toward Washington. This comes as the U.S. Treasury Department announced this week new sanctions on individuals and institutions allegedly involved in laundering illicit funds from cybercrime operations to fund the North's weapons program. The State Department had also stated that it plans to pursue UN sanctions against foreign ships accused of helping transport North Korean coal and iron ore exports to China. Despite Trump's interest in reviving talks with Kim Jong-un, as the sanctions continue, Pyongyang's choice of strategic patience may suggest a sharp rhetoric and a renewed hardline approach. On the U.S. perspective, analysts say that the latest sanctions may signal stronger pressure on the regime after U.S.-North Korea talks failed to materialize during Trump's recent visit to Asia. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the United States test-fired a Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California early Wednesday, just days after President Donald Trump urged a restart of nuclear weapons testing. The Air Force Global Strike Command confirmed the unarmed GT-254 missile launch went smoothly, with the rocket landing near the Ronald Reagan Ballistic Missile Defense Site in the Marshall Islands. Officials said the test had been planned months in advance. The Minuteman III is a key component of America's nuclear triad, alongside submarine and bomber-launched nuclear weapons designed to respond only in the event of a nuclear attack. South Korea's current account surplus continued for the 29th month straight in September, driven by strong exports. The Bank of Korea announced Thursday that the preliminary current account surplus registered for the month stood at $13.47 billion, the largest for any previous September. According to officials, the figure was driven by a $14.24 billion surplus in the goods account. Exports rose 9.6% from the previous year, while imports increased by 4.5%. Also, from January to September, the cumulative surplus reached $82.77 billion, about 23% higher than the same period last year. And a K-beauty company, APR, the owner of Medicube and now South Korea's #1 K-beauty firm by market capitalization, has announced its highest ever quarterly performance despite U.S. tariffs kicking in. The company held an earnings conference on Thursday and said that its consolidated sales for the third quarter of 2025 reached 385.9 billion Korean won, or approximately $267 million, up 121.7% year-on-year. Operating profits soared by over 252% on-year to 96.1 billion Korean won. This record was driven by a 210% surge on-year in overseas sales, which now make up 80% of the company's total revenue. Despite tariffs, the United States led this growth, with sales skyrocketing 280%. The company said the 15% tariffs had only around a 1% negative effect on sales. The Environment Ministry has announced 2 possible targets for South Korea's new national greenhouse gas reduction goal for 2035. During a public hearing at the National Assembly on Thursday, the Environment Ministry and related agencies revealed 2 ranges. It proposed cutting emissions by either 50-60% or 53-60% compared to 2018 levels, a significant change from the current target of a 40% reduction by 2030. The final decision on which target to use will be made by the Presidential Commission on Carbon Neutrality and Green Growth and the Cabinet next week, and then be submitted to the United Nations the following week. Under the Paris Agreement, all signatory nations are required to establish and submit updated targets every 5 years. And staying on the local front, one of the largest public libraries is open on a trial basis with green initiatives and AI-based activities. Our Cha Yun-kyung tells us more.
This is a newly built Gyeonggi Provincial Library in Gyeonggi Convergence Town. It covers an area of about 27,000 square meters and has 5 floors above ground and 4 below, making it the largest public library in the country, excluding the National Library. Since it is operated as a climate and environment library, the first and 4th floors feature specialized spaces for material on those topics. The use of disposable products is also kept to a minimum.
We're trying to minimize many of the items we've been using, such as papers used for information boards, book location printouts, and other disposable products.
On the 2nd floor, there is a World Friends Book Village designed for children and families. It offers multilingual material from 22 countries, ranging from English to Vietnamese. There is also a service where AI learns family members' voices and reads books to children. On the first basement level, there is an AI studio where visitors can use 8 types of generative AI tool for free. The library features a spiral structure with no walls or doors, and each floor includes various hands-on and experimental spaces, making it a unique environment. Its opening hours are 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. from Tuesday to Friday and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. The library will be operated on a trial basis until the end of the year and will officially begin full operation next year. Cha Yun-kyung, Arirang News.
Arirang TV's video journalist Kim Woosung received the award for news at the 2025 Hinzpeter Awards in Seoul on Wednesday for his report Midnight Martial Law. He accepted the honor with 3 other people on behalf of 48 fellow journalists for covering the tense developments at the National Assembly following former President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law declaration last year, despite the risks posed by troops surrounding the area. Established in 2021, the Hinzpeter Awards commemorate German journalist Wirgen Hinzpeter, who broke the story of the Gwangju democratization movement in May 1980.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. In New York City on Tuesday night, Democrat Zohran Mamdani won a decisive victory over former governor of New York State Andrew Cuomo to become the city's first Muslim mayor. With 97% of votes counted, he led by more than 8 points. Speaking in Brooklyn, Mamdani called New York a, quote, light in a moment of political darkness, and sent a direct message to the president, quote, turn the volume up. Within minutes, Donald Trump fired back on Truth Social, branding Mamdani's victory, quote, communism over common sense, and warning that Democrats were pushing America too far left. The win cements a strong night for Democrats nationwide. Mamdani will take office in January as New York's 111th mayor. Focus now turns to how his progressive agenda, including rent freezes and an increase in corporation tax, will unfold under a Trump presidency. In the United States, at least 11 people were killed when a plane crashed and exploded on Tuesday evening in Louisville, Kentucky. Authorities say the UPS cargo plane's left engine caught fire and detached during takeoff from Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport, sending the plane crashing into nearby buildings and triggering a massive fireball. According to officials, at least a dozen people were injured and more victims are feared as the search continues for missing people. Officials also say the crash caused a blaze so intense that parts of the city were briefly placed under a shelter-in-place order. Investigators have recovered the plane's black boxes and are examining footage showing the engine falling from the wing moments before impact to determine what caused one of the state's deadliest aviation disasters. In Bosnia-Herzegovina, at least 11 people have been killed and around 30 injured after a fire broke out at a retirement home in the city of Tuzla, about 80 kilometers northeast of Sarajevo on Tuesday evening. Authorities say the blaze started on the 7th floor of the building and took an hour to bring under control. Local media report that many of the victims were elderly or bedridden, unable to escape as flames and smoke filled the upper floors. Officials are still investigating the cause, and the home's director has offered his resignation, calling the tragedy, quote, a heartbreak for the entire country. The brightest supermoon of 2025 illuminated skies around the world on November 5th. Also known as the Beaver Moon, the spectacle appeared up to 14% larger and 30% brighter than usual, bright enough to cast shadows under its light. Astronomers say the moon reached its closest point to Earth about 357,000 kilometers away, just hours after turning full, marking the biggest and brightest of the 3 supermoons that appeared this year. Skywatchers in both hemispheres enjoy the show, while a live stream from Italy's Virtual Telescope project captured the moment for millions online. The next supermoon is set to rise on Thursday, December the 4th. 주지현, 아리랑 뉴스.
After a foggy start, we are having another mild and gentle autumn day across the country. But with the air staying still, ultrafine dust will build up, especially across the central and western parts of Korea. Air quality will be bad all day in the capital area, Chungcheongdo and Jeollabuk-do provinces. So if you're sensitive to dust, it's a good day to wear a mask outdoors. And many are coming down with a cold these days due to big temperature fluctuations. So please keep that scarf close. Wide temperature swings from morning to daytime will persist throughout the month. And most regions will have comfortable temperatures this afternoon, topping out at 19 degrees here in Seoul and Chuncheon, Gwangju, Gyeongju, Jeju, getting up to 21 degrees under sunny skies nationwide. Then we have a rain in the forecast on Saturday from the southern regions, which will spread nationwide on Sunday. And that rain will bring a colder breeze, waking up to another very chilly morning next Monday.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.
Lair the Peak.